From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now! We're broadcasting from the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah.
I took on the FBI in that one, the CIA in 3 Days in the Condor, the presidency and all the president's men, so I suspect, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything, but I don't worry about that anymore. But the idea was, at the time, I didn't worry about it. I thought it was such an important story to tell.
Today, we spend the hour with Robert Redford, the legendary actor, director, activist, and founder of the Sundance Film Festival, the largest festival for independent cinema in this country. All that and more coming up. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Haitian authorities say more than 150,000 bodies have been buried in Haiti since the devastating January 12th earthquake. Haiti's communications minister, Marie-Laurence Jocelyn Lasec, suggested the death toll could rise to 300,000. Lasec said, quote, "Nobody knows how many bodies are buried in the rubble." As many as 800,000 Haitians are now homeless in the capital of Port-au-Prince. To deal with the housing crisis, Haitian officials have announced plans to house 400,000 survivors in tent cities outside the capital. But the International Organization for Migration said it could take weeks to search out sites suitable for the tent cities. The organization says 100,000 tents are still needed. An estimated 200,000 residents of Port-au-Prince have already fled for the countryside or other cities in Haiti. Up to 100,000 people have returned to the region around the coastal city of Gonaïves in northern Haiti, a city abandoned by many after 2 devastating floods in 6 years. Many survivors of the earthquake have still not received medical attention. Dr. Mille Etienne is a Haitian-American neurosurgeon aboard the U.S. Navy's floating hospital, the Comfort.
Many of these patients, because their legs, for example, were crushed a week ago, they didn't get immediate medical attention. A lot of them were stuck in a building or a house for 2, 3, 4, 5 days before they were discovered. So what happens is for a lot of those patients, the legs are dying, and having that dead leg there puts you at increased risk for infection, and that infection in the leg can actually kill the patient. So we are having to do a lot of amputations.
Haiti's Prime Minister, Jean-Max Berive, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and others will take part in closed-door talks today in Montreal to map out key priorities for rebuilding Haiti. Oxfam's calling on foreign ministers attending the talks to cancel Haiti's outstanding $890 million international debt. On Friday, the Hope for Haiti telethon was broadcast across the United States. The event, organized by George Clooney, raised $57 million for relief organizations in Haiti. So far, the world's nations have pledged some $1 billion in emergency aid to Haiti. The amount of money being sent to help Haiti pales in comparison to the U.S. war budget. In 2007, the economists Joseph Stiglitz and Linda Bilmes estimated the war in Iraq was costing the United States $720 million a day. President Barack Obama used his weekly radio address on Saturday to assail the Supreme Court's ruling that corporations can spend unlimited amounts of money to elect and defeat candidates. In a 5-4 decision, the court overturned century-old restrictions on corporations, unions, and other interest groups from using their vast treasuries to advocate for a specific candidate. Obama said his administration is working on a response with members of Congress from both political parties.
This ruling opens the floodgates for an unlimited amount of special interest money into our democracy. It gives the special interest lobbyists new leverage to spend millions on advertising to persuade elected officials to vote their way or to punish those who don't. That means that any public servant who has the courage to stand up to the special interests and stand up for the American people can find himself or herself under assault come election time. Even foreign corporations can now get into the act. I can't think of anything more devastating to the public interest. The last thing we need to do is hand more influence to the lobbyists in Washington. or more power to the special interests to tip the outcome of elections.
Legal experts say the Supreme Court's ruling calls into question the constitutionality of state campaign finance laws. 24 states have laws that limit political contributions from corporations and unions. In business news, newly disclosed emails show the New York Federal Reserve attempted to keep secret many of the details of the AIG bailout, citing national security grounds. The emails were released last week by the New York Fed ahead of a congressional hearing on the bailout. The Fed's bailout of AIG remains controversial in part because it secretly funneled nearly $70 billion to 16 big U.S. and European banks in what many described as a backdoor bailout. It was later disclosed that recipients of the AIG bailout funds included Goldman Sachs Group and Deutsche Bank. The New York Times reports President Obama will use his State of the Union address Wednesday to propose a package of initiatives intended to help middle-class families. The proposals include tax credits for child care, caps on some student loan payments, and a requirement that companies let workers save automatically for retirement. Obama will also call for expanded tax credits for retirement savings and money for programs to help families care for elderly relatives. In other economic news, Walmart's announced it's cutting some 11,000 jobs. The layoffs will affect workers at Walmart's Sam's Club division. A new report on child poverty has found more than 13 million American children now live in families with incomes below the official poverty level of $22,000 a year for a family of four. The number of American children living in poverty has increased by 2.5 million over the past 10 years. The National Center for Children in Poverty says another 16 million children live in low-income families but are ineligible for public benefits because they live in households that earn slightly more than $22,000 a year. The Obama administration plans to appeal the dismissal of manslaughter charges against 5 Blackwater operatives involved in the killing of 17 Iraqi civilians in Nisour Square. Vice President Joseph Biden announced the decision during a trip to Iraq.
A dismissal, I want to make clear, is not an acquittal. And today, I'm announcing that the United States government will appeal this decision. Our Justice Department will file that appeal from the judge's decision next week.
How long? Meanwhile, a new government audit has determined the State Department has consistently failed to properly monitor DynCorp International's $2.5 billion 5-year-old effort to train the Iraqi police. Auditors said DynCorp invoices were regularly found to have errors and often lack sufficient documentation. The report states, quote, as a result, over $2.5 billion in U.S. funds are vulnerable to waste and fraud. Reports are emerging from Burma that the Burmese military junta may be planning to release the imprisoned pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi in November. Burma's Home Minister, Major General Mayoral, reportedly told a meeting of business leaders and local officials that the Nobel Peace Prize winner could be released in November when her house arrest ends. Human rights activist Debbie Stothard said the promise to free Suu Kyi might be a false alarm ahead of the national elections.
We have to be cautious that the regime has always played a game with ASEAN and the international community by making false promises and raising expectations that Aung San Suu Kyi will be released. And they've always promised Aung San Suu Kyi's release when they start to feel that the pressure is too much on them. We could see very clearly in the international community and also inside Burma that there is a lack of credibility over the election.
The Pentagon's plans to open another military base on the Japanese island of Okinawa has been dealt a setback. Voters in the city of Nago have elected a mayor who campaigned on a promise to oppose the base. The U.S. has more than 47,000 troops in Japan. Half of them are in Okinawa. In Bolivia, President Evo Morales has been sworn in for a second term after winning a sweeping re-election victory in December. In his inauguration speech, Morales promised to launch state-run paper, cement, dairy, and drug companies and develop